Hello and welcome to episode 109 and a happy new year to everybody out there. Well, it's the first podcast of 2026. No Adam Walker today. He's a busy chap. But I am super excited that our very first guest of 2026 is Natalie Warren-Green. Natalie, good morning, my lovely.
Hello, Andrew. Nice to see you.
Yeah, happy new year to you. Did you have a lovely festive break?
I did. Yeah, I did. I made sure that I chilled a bit over the festive season, but I did read a couple of books and articles as well, because you never stop, do you?
No,
when you're in this
you don't.
industry.
Running your own company, Natalie, absolutely. So for all of our listeners out there, can you please introduce yourself, explain who you are and what your company does?
Yeah, so I'm Natalie Warren-Green. I'm better known as Tilly, actually. This has been a nickname that I was given early in my career, and it stuck.
We'll come back to that.
My professional focus is supporting organisations to manage change. And what that means in the context of what we're talking about is the people side of introducing technology to organisations.
Yeah, I mean it's a subject very close to my heart, Tilly. As you know, technology is bounding leaps and bounds. It's amazing. It's changing the landscape. However, a lot of people do forget that it's affecting the people. And I know from working through with yourself for a while, it has an amazing effect on people, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and it has, for decades. And I think, well, way back, I mean, let's face it, even when the telephone was introduced, I had a grandmother who wouldn't pick up the phone. She was terrified it was going to burn her ear. So, there's technology live as a little child, seeing my grandmother going, no, thank you.
Okay, so tell me about your company name. Obviously, I understand, we've spoken and I get the background, but it's fascinating where you've managed to get the name from.
Yeah, so the company name is Mirabilis Management Limited. It's Mirabilis for short. And lots of people say, why have you chosen Mirabilis?
Yeah.
Well, it's a Latin adjective. And when I established the company, I wanted to feel really positive about change. Change is something people really push back against. And the adjective means wonderful, marvelous, astonishing, remarkable. And it's derived from miracle. And what I find is that just having that name helps to keep that reminder at times when you're really having to work with people that are pushing back against change, that change is possible and it's a situation to manage. It's not a problem. And as much as people tend to want to run from change, marvelous miracle things can happen. And especially when you embrace technology along the way, and people forget that they've been through a change once the change has happened, and that's the miracle of it all. So Mirabilis it is.
Yeah, it's a fantastic name. And then, as we've been saying about your company name, so where, who, how did Tilly come around?
Well, how did I get into this? It was an interesting journey. When I first graduated, I wanted to be a journalist.
Wow.
And I was trained for a little while by Dimbleby Newspaper Group, and then I worked for United Press International. And I soon discovered that actually I wasn't enjoying being a journalist as much as I thought. I was loving the communications part of it. I was loving the research. I was loving the analysis. And I was really enjoying meeting people and thinking about how within the world people operate and move and change and get educated. So the education piece came really through, because what I found is the more people that I was interviewing, the more I realized a lot of the concerns we have in life was education. So I jumped into educational publishing.
Right.
Educational publishing at a time where there was a massive change happening in technology.
Yeah.
So my role was editorial,
Uh-huh.
but actually it wasn't really editorial at all. It was managing people to write books. So it's project management linked to technology. The technology was printing at the time.
Gosh.
but the technology moved very quickly, and I was at a really lucky stage in my career where experienced the move from printing to desktop publishing, and I was asked to manage that transition.
Gosh, you
So
were right there with it then.
that's how Tilly came about in the strategic management of change around technology. And it was right back then, right back in the 90s, where they were saying, you know, printing is going to die out, desktop publishing is coming in, new technologies are taking over. Can you help the editorial teams, the production teams, the design teams all over the world in the role I had to embrace this?
Gosh.
And yeah, that was really fortunate. I just think I somehow a lucky star spotted me and put me in the right place at the right time. I've never looked back. I've been managing people through technology change ever since.
They do say that businesses start in the most peculiar way. I know that Resilient did exactly that. It was somebody who had a crash on their computer. Oh, you know about this IT stuff, Andy. And suddenly I just happened to be, as you quite rightly said, picked up the phone. I was in the right time at the right place, and it just was born. Obviously, last year, Resilient were 20 years old. I've been going 20 years, Tilly. Goodness me.
Well,
no,
fantastic.
Exactly. Oh, thank you. So in terms of when that desktop publishing change came along, obviously you must have felt this is it now. I'm feeling as though this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then obviously from that point of view, Mirabilis was born.
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, at that point, I didn't really understand that I was managing change.
Ah, interesting.
When I came to understand as managing change, so what happened was I was working internationally. I was asked to go out to South Africa to work as a dispensation change. So suddenly publishing in 11 languages, but not only doing that, moving to a digital change at the same time. So it was massive. It was cultural change. It was behavioural change around teams, but it was also, and now we're also layering on digital change. And I worked in the international arena for about 10 years, and I got promoted to an international director role when I was really young. I was only in my late 20s, and I did an MBA because I was sitting in the boardroom going, oh my God, I might know how to get people to go through change, and I might have to drive business, but I have no idea what's happening on this spreadsheet. Yeah. So I did an MBA, and when I did my MBA, I focused on the strategic management of change because this light bulb moment happened. And I realized that what I had been doing was managing people through cultural, behavioral, process and technology change. And I was loving and lapping up all of this. So over the years, I embraced that. Mirabilis came quite a bit later. I created Mirabilis in 2012, and that's while I was working on transformation projects for organisations. But I knew that there was a point in my life personally that I needed to start to work for myself and do more for myself because I had a home situation that I need to manage at the same time. So Mirabilis came about because I had a lot of experience by then of transformation change. I had taken businesses through paper to digital, from analog to digital in the TV space, also qualifications going more online in that space. So lots and lots of back-end technology in these transformation projects. When Mirabilis was born, it occurred to me I needed an associate model because I wanted to manage change, carry on being a change manager. There are other people out there in the market doing this. You know, people will be familiar with them. Yep. Working with tech teams, but the marketplace was asking for a solution where a team could come in and help them manage the people side of change, go through the disruptive bit, not mind being disliked while they did it. So they didn't really want permanent staff to do it at the time because the permanent staff were going, oh, my teams are going to hate me if I push them through this. So it's like, bring it in. So what I created in Mirabilis was an associate model. So it was myself doing that sort of lead generation and change management, stakeholder engagement, working with the leaders on cases for change. But then as we worked out what the program of change needed to look like with teams within the business, and those teams would be driving the need, telling us what they needed, and then we'd say, right, as associates, what do we need here? So sometimes we will need project managers, sometimes techies. So, you know, initially it was people that were helping to set up IT desks, for instance. And the change that I would be driving in the business would be, how do you work with somebody who's technical, who's talking a technical language you don't understand?
Yeah.
And there was training behind that. So it was like putting together training programs. The other side, there were techies in the team that were going and working with technical teams saying, right, what are you trying to do for the business? And I was that glue in the middle.
Yeah.
And so Mirabilis has grown as an associate model as technologies evolve, because there have been different needs for different skills around technology, process, business analysis, data engineering, data analysis, all those things. You'll be familiar with all this, Andy.
100%, Tilly, and it's very, again, like I said at the start, very close to my heart. Before Resilient was born, I was part of an IT team going into doing the change, and I can remember at that point, when you went in and you were telling the team, as in the business, IT's coming, technology's coming, change is coming. I remember being sat at the back looking around. Some of the people leant forward as if to say, ooh, this is interesting. Other people were just looking around as to say, I'm not bothered. And then there was those people that just crossed their arms and went, no, you're not changing me. And I was very instrumental in meeting all those three stereotypes, and obviously I don't mean that disrespectfully, but, having conversations with somebody that was going, absolutely, like you said, I'm a sponge. I'm loving this change. Other people that just were not interested but went, fine, if I have to do it, I have to do it. But I always remember one particular person, and it's just like, I've been working in this business for 30 years, Andy. I come in at 9 o'clock, I leave at 5 o'clock, I have an hour for lunch, you ain't going to change me.
Absolutely.
And
it
like,
hasn't,
fine.
Andy, it hasn't changed. I mean, I'm
No.
working on projects continually, and in different magnitudes, sometimes small projects where the people just want me as a change manager coming in, and there are still people with what other people would consider a small change, like using a new till, for instance.
Yes.
In introducing a new till through a whole infrastructure of outlets, or and there were people that said, but I've used this till for 41 years.
Yes, exactly.
What do you mean? I don't need it. But the new till is making you more efficient, effective, making you upsell things, cross-sell things, driving business. What they don't see is a benefit for themselves.
No.
And so they're looking at it going, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to learn to use this. I don't want to do this, but I still want to work for 10 years. So how on earth am I going to embrace this change? I don't want to do it, and I will keep going back to that old till as long as there's a point at which it works. And as soon as there's a cutover, that's when you got to be ready. So as a change manager, get in early, get those people warmed up, understand their fears, get some, really good communication going with them, get the leaders that are leading those teams to own the change, because sometimes the leaders don't want to either.
100%.
Create change agents out of them, and then the change gets embraced, and then actually they own that change, and it's phenomenal. And that's the miracle of it all. Suddenly they own the change and they forget you even existed, and that's great. And you go off like Mary Poppins, and off you go to sort out something else.
Mary Poppins, I love that. I absolutely love that. But you are 100% right, Tilly. It can even be the smallest change. I remember in one of my early days of Resilient, implementing dual monitors for somebody. And they were absolutely dead against it, purely for the fact is, you give me 2 monitors, my boss is going to expect me to do twice the workload, and I refuse. And you're like, no, it's actually easier for you, because you can have one side on the, and absolutely, Tilly, it must have taken me a month to get through to this person to go, we're not trying to monitor you. This is, look how easy other people have accepted it. And one of the points I want to pick up on is what you were saying then about getting the change agent. As soon as all of the other team got the dual monitors and were like, oh my God, this is brilliant, suddenly this person started getting reluctant to stop me, because he could actually see, well, actually, it is a benefit of me. But honestly, Tilly, 4 weeks of just hitting my head again. Nope, I ain't doing it, Andy. Nope, I ain't doing it.
Yeah. Oh, I can totally appreciate that. What I found in that scenario is that an added dynamic. I work internationally, and with the team, and the cultural differences set in.
Yes.
So you will be trying to encourage a change. Good example is implementing an ERP system like SAP that tends to be global.
Yes, it does.
And
yes.
going into different cultures. And I experience of going into another country where people didn't speak English particularly well. We've been running workshops around what are their needs for this new ERP system. And it was not just the finance, but it was also customer services, it's also sales, it's also marketing. How are those people going to use this different system to make sure that they keep up with their customer reporting, to make sure they're billing on time, to make sure they don't lose their revenue? And that change, there was that impact of the international, the language, but also that cultural, the way they learn. So some cultures rote learning, some cultures they want to be talked to, and some are kinetic learners, they want to do it to understand it. So that user acceptance session is really important. What I found in those scenarios is go in, understand who in the office is the one that's being so negative about the change, and it's often the manager, and then getting them to be your change agent. So therefore, a change agent is somebody who's trained on, light training, but trained on how do you move people through change? How do you, what is the sort of neuro sort of science around it to get the benefits factor through and get them to work on what are the benefits of this for your team, how it's going to help you and your team. And then they start to own it very early, and then they become the people that present back to the team, this is what's happening. And if there's a language barrier, they present it in their own language.
No, I
that
totally
really
understand,
helps. That really helps.
It really helps. Just touching on your international, I believe you've been very lucky working away. You've even actually, as I say, you've worked directly with Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, I did. That was a long time ago, but yes, it was early in my career. At the time, I didn't really appreciate how lucky I was doing that. I just kind of went out there. We had to introduce publishing. It was to empower the within the dispensation at power workers. So while we were doing the publishing change, we were also doing courses and things and working in and out of the government. One thing he was very, very passionate about was enabling workers that hadn't been educated particularly well, because the departments for education had been divided in South Africa. So it was more the categorised black workers as well as the coloured workers categorised that had less education, and the white and Indian workers had more education. And they were trying to get more of the coloureds and the black workers to be able to get more superior jobs, so they could be supervisors or they could become managers. And so a lot of the work we were doing around publishing was special projects going in, and Nelson Mandela himself was very, very close to this. So I was it was in some of the sessions that we were in talking about how were we rolling this out, and then I worked with the trade and industry secretary that worked for him. And I was also on his delegation when he first came to the UK and came over, and I was like, this was great. Got dinner in the Dorchester and everything.
Oh my Lord, how lucky was that?
So
to me as a young woman, it was about, well, this is great. We're getting these people jobs. This is about employability. I'm using the skills I've learned back in the media sector as a journalist into change. This whole thing around digital change was coming through. In industry, digital change was coming through. So all of those leaders needed to be trained in digital change too, as well as being a leader. You can't just be a leader, but the digitization in industry, obviously, which is the marketplace we work in as change people or communicators, that was changing too. So those people were up against it. They'd been educated in a certain way. How do they become a leader and understand all of these other things and all the terminology? So again, technology impacting.
Absolutely. Well, I want to come back onto that. So you've led me down a lovely little story path, but I just want to go back. Looking back then, working with your time with Nelson Mandela, the story that I'm going to tell you and I would like your feedback on it is that I was in my early days, again, this is pre-resilient. I used to work for a company that implemented ERP systems, and we were introduced to a company where they wanted to introduce barcoding to speed up the process, to help understand how they can get quicker, more efficient, all the things that every company should be thinking about. And I remember being introduced to the managing director, and God bless him, lovely, lovely gentleman. However, very old, a few years from retiring, and absolutely stuck in his ways. Even still had little petty cheat sheets for everything. And the whole time that I was in that project of 6 months, it was a constant slog, because from the top down with him, you could run into these people that are going, I'm not doing it, Andy. I couldn't go anywhere else because even the top man was going, no, we ain't doing this, Andy. And it took, unfortunately, for him to be of ill health and his son stepping up and going, well, actually, I'm an absolute driver of this. And we suddenly managed to get the whole project changed, and we pushed it through. But this company was on the brink. They were hemorrhaging money left, right and centre. So going back to Nelson Mandela, and going back to your very succinct point, these managers, these leaders who embrace change, they are the drivers, aren't they? Without them, we wouldn't be able to do anything.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of change programs struggle if they have a leader or a sponsor that doesn't really believe in the change or doesn't want to be unpopular with their team.
Yeah.
And so a big role of a change leader is to work with them to get them to understand those benefits.
Yeah.
If the leadership doesn't really want to change, so sometimes it's a shareholder push or a stakeholder push from an executive board saying this is where we want to go. So the actual board of directors or the leaders, kind of like the senior management team, they don't really want to change. Sometimes the middle managers are the ones that are the best advocates of it. So sometimes the middle managers are the ones going, this is going to really help us. They get it because they're on the ground and they can see why the powers above are saying we should be doing this. And then, but the senior teams are going, God, we've got so much to manage already. This is going to be just a phase and a fad. There's been so much change. We've got change fatigue. It's so much to manage. And so the beauty is if you can get sponsors who do really embrace it and they do own it themselves. So for instance, we'll be part of if there's a big program and you have your steer group meetings, which people, listening to be familiar with, running big programs and projects. And those happen in technology all the time. But as you're developing infrastructure and as you're developing products, you will have your steering groups. If you have a sponsor that isn't really engaged, it's sometimes a problem because they'll come there and they'll expect the change lead or the program lead or the tech lead to manage that project and take ownership. What the job of the change lead is to make sure that sponsor really embraces it, because that sponsor is the voice of the organization.
Yes.
That sponsor is going back to the organization, and then their change agents or leads within their business, they will be taking on board the communication and the energy from that sponsor. And if that leader or sponsor doesn't have the energy for change or the appetite for change, that's where it's really tricky. And that's where technology sometimes has to push across the boundary. And that is when you're going back to the old school that you were talking about earlier. Of technology. Here's technology, over the fence, you've changed.
Yeah.
That's where it reverts back, and it still happens sometimes, sadly, that you can't get it to the point where it says we're going to go live now with this new tech. People are all ready. Sometimes there's a push rather than right, we're ready for it. We're all trained up. We've got this. We know we're being supported. UAT's happened. And also, when you're doing an agile iteration, people are brave enough to say, we're ready for this phase. We know we're not quite ready yet with everything we need in terms of the end product, but that whole agile iteration, change management in that is also critical, because sometimes there are sponsors or leaders or people in teams going, I'm a bit nervous about this because we're launching something that is going to have to iterate afterwards rather than we've gone through a waterfall approach and we've just got
Yeah.
to the end product.
Absolutely. One of the things that I find fascinating is that, again, I'll say respectfully, obviously in terms of, me, Resilient, the large majority of my customers are small to medium enterprise businesses. I have worked, like yourselves, where I've been implementing ERP, SAP, BPIX, MAPIX, JBA to huge worldwide countries. One of the things that I find fascinating, as I was saying, is that I bring what I learned at the large enterprise level down to the small enterprise. And even only something last year, Tilly, when I was only working with a company of 4 people, and they were asking me to implement something, a big change effectively. I was automating a lot of stuff. And I started talking to them about UAT and change. And they were like, stop, Andy, what's UAT? And I'm like, user acceptance testing. Well, no, just put it live, Andy. I'm like, no. I said, what we'll do if we put it live is that you will get frustrated, end up frustrated with me. Believe me, trust me. My experience tells me that we, nominate one person, the other 3, you do the job exactly as you've been doing it today, nominate one person, and we will mirror the exact same job but then you're doubling work, Andy. And it honestly, Tilly, it took me a good couple of hours for them to go, please, just trust me. And then once we started the UAT and we started uncovering the bugs, nothing's perfect, Tilly. They were like, oh my God, thank you, Andrew. But, when the end of the day, I was just like, oh my God, they don't. But bless them, Tilly, it was not their fault that they didn't understand UAT or UAT, as I called it. So again, you must find that whole resistance, that whole, what on earth are you putting on us, Tilly? This is just madness. Why can't I just go away and do it?
It's true. And I think with the SMEs that you're working with, I'm very familiar with that too. But from my perspective, SMEs are often asking me to come in and help them with websites.
Ah, right. Interesting.
And with portals. And not only that, just very basic, going from paper to an app to be able to manage their finances, for instance. Yes. So there are 2 things going on there. So what you're talking about with UAT, definitely is embraced very much when you're going from paper to app, managing finances, because it's just a very, very small change. But for small businesses, it's massively important. It saves so much time. You don't have all of this. You'll remember the days, as I do, and I am a small business, so yes, I know the pain. So I can live the pain of a small, medium-sized business because, hey, I'm sitting in the chair of it. And I've been through decades of having receipts piling up on desk going, okay, at the end of the month, I'll deal with those. Now you've got an app, you go zap, it's in. It's trusting that. Now that UAT of, I'm not sure I'm going to want to use this, or you mean I'm going to document my documents digitally, but where am I going to put all my folders and files? Well, you're going to shred them.
Yes. No, the look of horror.
And then it's that education around the cloud and how it works. So it's all of that. And that's where, for me, my tech associates come in. So it's people like you I would go, Andy, right, I've got this client. I know how from a people change perspective to do this. I don't really understand what's going on in the background. And they're asking me all these technical questions and they want to know it in order to embrace it.
Of course.
So, and that's a little bit of training and mentoring and coaching from a tech perspective. And people don't understand someone running a business like you, a lot of what you'll be doing is similar to me. You will be coaching and mentoring people, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely right. And again, I think it's important that you mentioned there about that understanding and almost that apathy for people. I do remember, again, outside of Resilient, I do remember that I overheard when we were working, or I was working at a help desk, and somebody had rang in, and obviously I couldn't hear what the other person was saying, but I remember watching my colleague, and all he did was he just went, right, okay then. And I can absolutely imagine that, and I pulled him up about it and I went, do you realise how bad you must have made that other person think by tutting at them? And he went, well, it was such a simple thing. And I'm like, no, it's a simple thing to you. Remember, this person's been doing their job for 30, 40 years. We are massively trying to push a new system onto them. You've got to remember that to them, it's a massive, I know, but it's a simple 2-click job. I'm like, no, you're just not getting it. So again, having somebody like you to be, and I loved your words, the glue within the middle, because to me, I could ask you to do something in Teams or Outlook and you'd be like, sorry, Andy. I'd be like, come on, Tilly, it's easy. But to you, unless, people don't know what they don't know, Tilly.
And coming back a bit to the website, I don't know how involved you get in helping people to create websites and things, but that's slightly different, isn't it? It's not user acceptance testing. That is more user experience or customer experience. So UX and CX, as we'd say in the trade. But as you said, acronyms bounce out. UAT, user acceptance testing. CX, customer experience. UX, user experience. You've got all of these things coming through. And so one of the things that I've been asked to do over the years is, as people from a technology team, such as yourselves, work with an organisation, usually small, medium organisations, they will have set up their own website. They'd have thought, this is easy. I've got this tool, on it goes. They haven't got anybody, they've no traffic driving to it. They don't know why. So coupled together, so my side of that would be, well, let's have a look and see what the customer or the user journey is. Why would they come to your website in the first place? Where are they going to find you? Why would they come there? What's driving the traffic? And once they're there, what are they trying to achieve there? And therefore, what should it look like? So then you get some people to try it that might be customers or users to see whether or not they are finding within a certain number of clicks, usually 3. There is a bit of a debate about that these days. I still believe it's 3 clicks and you're in, and you won't. A lot of people say that's not the case anymore. Anyway, that's another discussion. And that's about customer experience. And that's another thing that we have to think about, right? Because while I'm doing that, what you and the technology team will be doing is saying, right, so you are saying to me, this is what's required from a customer user experience on there. Therefore, the technology behind it has to do this, and that. And it also has to drive the traffic there. But once it's there, it has to make it easy to use. Now, I'm using simple terms. I'm proving your point here, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know what you're doing in the background. All I'm saying is this is what I need. And you're going, how do I solve that? How do I make that happen? Is that correct?
100%. And my colleague who's not here today, but Adam, he has a wonderful story where he went into a company they were not getting any sales. They were not getting any business driven to them. He revamped their website for them. Funnily enough, your 3 clicks, your call to action, do you want to deal with this? Click here to dial us or click here to call us. And, even the simple technology that when you click on the website, it rings the phone for you. And then he had a meeting with the company afterwards and they were like, it's brilliant. The phone's constantly ringing now. He says, but obviously they're just ringing us now. So it's nothing to do with the website. And Adam was like, no, but obviously, again, misunderstanding. But taking that very simple point to the next level for one of my customers where we are dealing with the website, everything nowadays, and you know this, Tilly, unless I get an answer within 30 seconds, I've moved on. It's like I want the answer instantly because we're all so used to these things here, So what we've now been able to prove is that when people log on to the website and maybe don't want to speak to somebody, but even just like, I tell you what, I'll fill in the contact form. Having the automation, whereas previously it was like, okay, Tilly, you've received an email from Andrew and it's up to you to reply back, hi Andrew, thank you, here's the PDF. Whereas now, automation, and we're coming on to how tech has changed, we've now got some customers where as you would fill in the contact form saying, I'd like some more information from Resilient about websites and I'd like a call back in 3 months' time. Now I've got AI and automation that the second you hit submit, you're getting an email back within a minute saying, thank you very much, Tilly. Here is that PDF that you've requested. And my automation has put a reminder in Andrew's diary to call Tilly back in 3 months. That is like a simple change. But even that, getting that across the board to my customer, it was an absolute nightmare until they saw it and went, oh my God, Andy, that's transformation. And again, transformation in terms of technology. So touching on, technology, God bless you, you know, from your young days with Nelson Mandela right up to today, you must have seen desktop change, desktop publishing change to AI. How has technology affected your business?
Oh, massively, massively. I mean, it's technology's been the driver of why business change around technology is needed, really.
Yes.
So, I mean, in terms of how technology is specifically impacted, it's being able to manage teams through different types of technological
Right.
change. So from the perspective of that initial industry that I was in, it went from, as I said, printing to desktop publishing. Then it went from desktop publishing and looking at product development. So you've got paper products to CD-ROM products to CD products. And then
We're
suddenly
old,
the
Tilly.
big brave world of the internet,
Yeah.
and there's fear in the industry that books would disappear and that everything would be online and you've got content online, and then having to think through what does the customer need, and the customer requiring content, fast content, short bites.
Yes.
So, and that would, in the broader media sector as well, going from analog to digital, which is a project that I manage for one of the news agencies. That was a 3-year program of change, taking each
goodness.
area through analog to digital, understanding the customers, understanding the market, understanding their readiness for change to go from TV
Yes.
to news online
Yeah.
or content online, and then getting the teams back at base to stop producing content, whether it be books, whether it be magazine articles, whether it be TV shows, big documentaries, being able to do that, but also to be able to merge text, photo, video, all in one place. And technology drove that, because the
Yeah.
technology was going, come on, you know, we've got this technology. And the market was saying, whoa, we really want the content like that, because that's fast. That's, like you said, you've got your telephone, you pick it up.
Yeah.
On there, you've got your news, you've got your entertainment, you've got all that. So how's technology changed me? Well, in terms of the business, being able to go into businesses and apply the skills of change to that changing environment. Now, what's happened more recently in my business is that in 2000, I was approached by one of my traditional, more sort of education, skills, content provision, publishing clients to come in and help with a change for environment. And it's because
Wow.
the shareholders were looking at the carbon tax going, well, we
Yeah.
get so much carbon tax. And then the environmental groups and the corporate social responsibility group were going, this isn't very good. If we look at our carbon footprint, it's really bad. So we had
Yeah.
pressure from both sides. Now, technology, enabling technology to create hubs in order to report spend, how procurement teams work, how they're procuring products, systems, so that they could then create dashboards out of the hub to present back to the teams that were caring about
Yep.
the environment, to the ones that were caring about the money that was being spent. Because so actually the drivers were coming 3-way. Where's technology in this perfect solution to be able to go, ping, how do we change the back end systems? How do we pull together that data in order to spit out a dashboard that
Yep.
can be actionable insight, and you can act on it? So the teams would change their behaviors. And as a result, and those are the teams that are on the ground through the whole business, plus the procurement teams. Now, that was a big project. Okay, so just like the analog to digital was a massive project, this was a big project, and it works. But it doesn't just work for big businesses. I see
No.
small businesses now wanting that. People care about the environment. It's a big issue. So how is technology helping that? In big and small ways. And some small businesses are going, oh, that's useful, because actually we don't actually have a lot of data, but our data's clean.
Yeah.
So we get the data in there, and we can work with a tech team who can create a small hub for us, where once a month, when we're reporting in, to ourselves if it's a small
Yes.
business, if they haven't got a, kind of any NEDs in their business. It will be for themselves to actually look at it and go, are we doing well from that perspective as well? Now, and that also helps to look at, are our procurement practices good? Have we wasted money anywhere? Oh,
Yeah.
actually, can we drive up our profit if we tweak this? And so technology has really helped. From my perspective on a change, it's helping people to understand how to embrace that new output and outcome from technology. So the output is that dashboard. How do you drive behavioural change rather than just go, that's nice to know, lovely, show me it again next month.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I'm going to do something about this. And technology's enabled that. But the only way technology to enable that is if the people actually use it as actionable insight. They don't just use it as a nice to know information. So that's a really good example, I think, of how technologies come through the ages. And I've worked in now since then in different industries. I've worked in the waste industry, aviation industry. I've been working in sort of like more the industrial and utility, retail industries, finance as well. And there's this awareness that when you're in change and you've got a team, like I've got my associate team that I draw on, you can flex in and out of industries and you don't get stuck in one. And that is the beauty of being a technology provider or being a change provider that's wrapped around technology.
And I, again, from a technology point of view, Tilly, I can't agree with you more because, I know you obviously from a while ago. Our broad range of skills allows us to go into any market industry. I don't care whether it's waste, I don't care whether it's utility. Technology applies itself regardless. There's subtle changes, but that again is what I want to touch on from your point of view. Do you feel that, going right back to your days of Nelson Mandela, right through to your small business, implementing ERPs, touching on industry, your experience, your knowledge, if you like, again, I struggle telling small businesses that knowledge is gold. You really should be advertising the fact that, this is the reason that you are paying, because that's another challenge. Somebody down the road can be 10 pence cheaper. And I'm like, yeah, but the experience that you've got, and people buy from people. We are not I often say to people, I'm not the most expensive IT company. I'm not the cheapest. However, what you will find on me is I actually care and I want to help you. And establishing that responsible exchange and being honest with people, Tilly, I think that drives businesses much better.
I agree, actually. Yesterday, in fact, in the morning, I was at a kind of a business buzz meeting where I was meeting more local businesses around here, seeing what they're doing. In fact, looking for more associates because I'm feeling like as AI comes into the market, I need subject matter experts in different areas. So although you can go into any industry, you can't go in without subject matter experts. And so, as long as you've got the subject matter experts in a certain industry that's aligned to you from the business, you're okay. Sometimes I need content subject matter experts if I'm going to a new industry. At the moment, it's not so much content because they are in the businesses. They are the experts. You're there to oil the wheels, to facilitate, to make sure that things happen, but also that they get the right technology, the right processes, ways of working to achieve the outcomes they want, right? So going and meeting people, talking to them, it was really interesting how a lot of people were saying sometimes they're struggling now because when you're looking for new business, people are going to online and they are identifying people they might want to work with, but it's all generated, when you've got pros and cons of this, if you can get into the right search streams, you will get spotted. In the olden days, way back, and actually not that long ago, to be honest, I would say even before lockdown. So before 2020, there were still people saying, come for a cup of coffee, let's have a chat. Right, I've got this project coming up. Will you give me a proposal and a pitch? And you're up against usually 2 or 3 other companies, even if it's a small company, they don't want to waste their money. So you'll be doing a pitch, but you're actually asked to do it. Now, you're not asked as much. It's much more about out there doing much more marketing, being online, being visible. And I do think that that's really important in terms of that personal relationship, just getting a conversation like this going, getting online, getting on a Teams meeting, getting on. I mean, I started on Skype. So,
You and
Skype,
me
when
alike.
I started working remotely, I worked remote on Skype for years. And then suddenly, we got Teams and we got, oh,
Zoom.
it's gone out of my head now. But the other Zoom, that's it, Zoom. So I used Zoom for ages. Some people still prefer Zoom. So Zoom. I don't know anyone that still uses Skype, to be honest.
No,
but it's still
gone.
on my laptop just in case. But no, Skype's not. I do, however, know from technology when I'm working in developing countries that sometimes they would prefer, rather than email, they might prefer a fax still. So we are moving. It's an interesting world. If you're looking,
Gosh,
and even those small businesses that have moved out to other countries are going, sometimes our Wi-Fi is a bit dodgy because they're in a country, but they've moved to a country to set up a small business or a medium-sized business. Can you make sure you back it up with a paper form or something? So sometimes that happens. It's all in transition.
Absolutely. One of the things I'd like to pick up on and ask your experience on is finding that, there's numerous words for it, Tilly, finding that unique spot, that pinch point, that something that twists the project. And the story that I've got is that I was trying to explain the benefits of Microsoft Copilot to one of my business unit. No, not interested, not whatever. And it was a Teams call like this, Tilly, and I had the transcription on and the recording, and I went, okay, fine. It's obviously something that you're not quite ready to accept. I get that, I understand that. And bless the lady was like, yeah, it's fine, Andy. If anything comes along that makes me change my mind, I'm sure you'll get in contact. And I just finished off the Teams meeting and I went, okay, so finally, the last thing I want to show you is obviously within Copilot, it's been transcribing, it's been listening to his recording. What you can now do is I can go into the Copilot and I can actually tell it to push out all the transcript, push out all the meeting minute points, because I always do that. Okay, Tilly, by Friday of next week, I will get you a cup of coffee. And I showed this lady the transcript and the automatic meeting, and she went, I'll buy it. I was like, sorry? She went, I'll buy it. She went, honestly, you've now just nailed it. He says, I hire a person to my side that does a particular job, but every single Friday I pull her into the Teams meeting and I get her to take the notes, take the minutes. She just sits there and types away. It takes about a couple of hours and she emails out all the minutes. Are you telling me Copilot can? And I went, yes. She went, right, I'll buy. Honestly, 59 minutes of, nope, I'm not having it. 1 minute of going, I'll buy it. So again, that's the benefits, but how do you?
And to you is you worked into so you worked into it, and it's like, I found the benefit.
Yes.
Now that's often the most difficult thing, because a lot of people will go, oh, how expensive is this? How much learning is this? How much do I need to, how much is my brain going to get scrambled, and how much is my bank balance going to get impacted? And that's not just small business; that's medium and large too.
Of course.
It's that whole budgeting. I think it is that benefit, and I think that's the key part of it. And there are some projects that it's really difficult to pin down what's the benefit to the person that's going to use the technology. It's usually easier to find the benefit for the organization, but I've actually had the same experience with Microsoft Copilot, and it's amazing how many people love it, especially working on programs and projects, because they will have a meeting, they'll have the transcription, and not only will they get the notes, but they will also get the summary and the key points and the actions coming at them. And they're like, this is great. Okay, so that's the sort of thing where that's quite an easy win. If that's what they're looking for. What are they looking for? Are they looking for efficiency? Are they looking for cost savings? Are they looking to be more environmentally friendly? Are they looking to be able to communicate better, to write better communications? And that's obviously where AI starts to come in, because that whole AI is in the background working, taking that transcript and going, right, I will pull out poignant points and I will create copy that can be used as minutes and as actions. And that, from a change management perspective, is a really useful tool.
Yeah.
And it's not and it's not just a useful tool in the background for managing meetings, but it's also that whole managing communications, getting your messaging right, getting the language level right. Because to your point earlier, when I was spouting on about UAT using acronyms, people don't know what you're talking about. So it helps to get that language level. What's your audience? You can actually put that into some of this and say, right, I want to talk to this audience. This is what I want to get across. Help me. And then you
Yes.
don't have to use exactly what the AI creates for you, but you can then look at it and go, right, that's a much quicker win because I can now tweak that because I can personalize it to the organization or the person, and you can pull it back in. And so how do you get the people on board? It's the benefit. Something like that is useful to comms teams, what I've just talked about. That would be the benefit of that. Be also useful to any manager that is asked to do a presentation just like that, something like that. So it's all about benefits. How do you get them on board? Neuroscience is a big thing in change management, and training in neuroscience is something that a lot of people do. And there are books on it, there are training courses, and it is massive. And that is where that whole benefit drivers come from, understanding what makes people tick. And everybody's different.
How on earth do you, going into any business, Tilly, being asked to come in and say, look, how do you find out not only the main people that you either identify as, you mentioned it, those are the people that are going to champion it, those are the people that are going to rebel against it. How do you find those people, along with the pinch points, as I call it, along with the benefits, along with the gains? God bless, you are brilliant at your job, I know, but I know from working in the same industry, not at your level as the technical, I just go in and I'm like, how on earth do you identify all of that? It must be at times frustrating, but when you click, it must be enthusiastically, massively brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, usefully in the change sector, there are frameworks that people work within. So
Right.
and phases, very like a program,
Right.
how a program's run out, but the change runs as a work stream in a program. So you will have a discovery phase. So an organization will say, look, what we want to achieve is this, and this is our business plan. Now, that might be a big organization or a medium. Smaller ones sometimes don't even have a business plan. They just say, I need to improve my efficiency, or I don't seem to have time to do that. How can I free up my time? And that's usually a technology solution. So what do? Well, you go in and what I do is, depending on the magnitude of the project, I might have one-to-one interviews with people that want change. So if it's small business, sometimes it's 1, 2, or 3 people. It might just be one person.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
and you literally do have a structured interview, so that it's sort of semi-structured. So you're trying to get to, why are you doing this? The most important thing is why, and what's the outcome you want? What's the benefit you're going to get? And that you get it from that conversation, and you drive it through different questions. And there are frameworks for this, and it's like, and where is the change readiness? So although they say they might want change, actually their readiness might not be there, and you'll pick that up as well through that.
Right.
On a bigger program, it'll be workshops. So you'll be asking for who are the key people that are going to need to lead any change that you might need. And those workshops will be people who will be talking about all the pain points they've got in their jobs.
Yeah.
And what you're going to be bringing in is a solution to the pain points. But once you understand the pain points and, what am I finding difficult in my job, whether or not it's in workshop, whether it's one-to-one interviews, and you soon find out who the people are that are pushing back, because even if they've got pain points, some of them like them. Some of them like pain. They're like, oh no, but we don't like this all our life. They like complaining, but they don't want to change. So how do we do it? It's like a discovery phase of a program, discovery phase of a change program. It's a similar thing. You're interviewing people, you're going in, you're bringing out data, and then you're creating against it. What the business need is a case for change. And that case for change is, this is where we are now. These are the problems we've got, or the pain points, or the situations to manage, or the challenges. This is where we need to be. Then you work out what needs to happen. And this is from a process change, technology change. So that's where technology is all embedded: process, technology, people. So you understand what needs to change from a people perspective. Then you get business analysts, process analysts, tech teams looking at, so in order to solve that situation they're trying to grapple with, what do we do? Then I have to look at, from a change perspective, what training, what coaching, what mentoring is needed around that. And so that value add is very much that. And often businesses overlook that. So they will get quite near to the end of getting their process and technology working. And then they'll say, go, why aren't the people using it? And I go in and I go, oh, if I had done the stakeholder engagement at the beginning, being brought in right at the beginning with the team that's working on it, and that's quicker too, because the people are taken on the journey, and as it goes over, there's that readiness. You hold them their hand again for as long as the organisation wants you to, because sometimes there's a retainer with small businesses or medium businesses where they're saying, can I come back to you just, every so often? And it's fine. The larger businesses, sometimes they retain you for a while to embed it. And that whole embedding is really important. It's around whether or not they've got their own training and embedment team. If they haven't, Mirabilis team will stay there until they feel really comfortable that it becomes business as usual. And guess what? Usually there's another program starting. And then all those teams are going to be impacted again. Because technology never stops changing, does it?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. I'm aware of the time, Tilly, but if you wouldn't mind, a double-barreled question. How do you feel AI will change the technical market sector in terms of your business and any business? And also, you were saying about the next project coming along. I've certainly felt, I'd probably say over the last 5 years, that most of my customers have come back to me and they've said, Andy, I need to work smarter, I need to work harder, I need to work cleverer. That change, if you and me think about when we used to work in our early days, change was a slow beast. Nowadays, people are expecting, right, that project's finished, the next one. So yeah, AI, how does it affect your sector? And how do you feel business should embrace that quick, agile change that you were talking about?
Right, so really you want it in a nutshell because of the time. So I think AI is already alive in the market sector, so it's not going to change in the future. It's here, it's now, it's happening. And there are two lenses. First of all, the needs of the clients. So that's managing AI introduced into operations. Very recently, I worked on an AI project with a client where the impact on 2 teams was quite severe. It meant some people's roles were changing, some were being made redundant, some of the roles were being offshored. And so lots of change dynamics going on. And how's it impacting them? Well, it's actually positive because it means that their sales are going to be up, their profits going to be up, the efficiency is going to be up, because the AI in the background is doing the jobs of some of the people that were in those teams. They had to retain some of the people. So not everybody goes because they have to manage the AI, but also there's a lot of skill offshore for AI. So the dynamic changing on the other side, secondly, for change managers is to, and what I've experienced firsthand, is to work with people through the change curve of their roles changing, sometimes having to accept that their role is redundant and therefore how do they get supported? Some of them, how's their role flexing, not only from a technology point of view, but also from a cultural point of view. So there's a lot to be said for change management around how do you work with the different cultures. Things get sometimes offshored, but also your immediate job, how are you making sure your customer satisfaction is kept up while the AI starts to take over your job? From a change manager's job, great opportunities, but a learning curve, I think. And I think there was a research study done recently by ProSci, which is a really good organisation that a lot of people are embracing as change, and I've used for many years. And they did, I think it was about 50-50 of change managers that I fed into the survey. So therefore I got the results. 50-50 saying we're using AI. Those of us using AI, what are we using it for? Well, we're using it for Sometimes looking at UAT sessions, how should they be set up? Who should you bring into them? Because you can usually go back through the meetings you've had with stakeholders, work out what your
Yes.
population should look like. Ongoing training in AI, we need to make sure as change managers, we understand what is available for training for AI for ourselves, but also within the industries we work. Information security around AI, we need to understand that. So that is another learning curve for change managers, because we might be pushing people to do AI. There's a big risk and fear. If we understand the risk, fear, the security, we can manage the change better.
Absolutely.
But then just very kind of like fundamentally on the ground, as change managers, we produce communications all the time, presentations. We produce FAQ questions for websites. We produce portals for change to people to go to. We produce data analysis and dashboards, as I mentioned. AI is enabling that to be quicker, faster, more efficient. So the more you embrace AI as a change manager, the quicker your job will be. But never forget that you can't just take what you've thrown into AI, had put out for a communication, for instance, without going into it and making sure that it's properly tailored to what your audience wants and what your organization needs. Because the AI can do a great job of the language, a great job of pulling together all that information, but it won't necessarily understand those nuances in that space.
Yeah. One of the things that I do love about you, Tilly, is that change is inevitable. Every business will have to do change. The stuff that I love about you is that you seem to embrace that change, but you definitely seem to have a personable contact. You understand how that change will affect not only the business, but that person, and how it will affect them individually. And I feel that's very important. And, you know, whether that's a great accolade for yourself, I do think that a lot of people forget about the people and they just go, yeah, implement the change. It won't matter. But having that personable and understandable, I believe that's what makes you different.
Well, you know what? I went to 7 different schools, and that's another story. I grew up embracing change, understanding people of all different backgrounds,
right?
So social settings, family settings, influences from different industries, from those families. You can't have a childhood like that without growing up to understand people and understanding neuroscience and how neuroscience is so important to change. If you don't understand that, sometimes it's difficult because you're going through the process with your framework without really understanding why somebody is still, because you need to understand what is it that's making them tick and what's the benefit to them. And I do think I do have, you know, hated moving schools all those times, but I now thank my mother so much, because do you know what? She created a career.
Oh, bless. So talking about the career, what does the future hold for you in Mirabilis? Mirabilis.
So Mirabilis. So for myself in my career, I have got to the stage where I'm doing quite a lot of coaching and mentoring. When I go into programs and projects, people want that knowledge transfer. They want their people to become change people within organizations, but also to understand when a change manager comes in, you're not a scary person.
Well, of course.
So for me, programs, projects, and roles that will require that kind of coaching, mentoring, knowledge transfer, but also on the ground, you know, I work telescopically, so thinking strategically, working with the leadership teams on the cases for change, but then honing down on that, where do you need my skills most? I'm really strong on communications. I'm really strong on stakeholder engagement. I'm really strong at making sure that people are thought of all the way through the planning for the go-to-market, through the training, the implementation. Okay, so I think more of the same for me, but more and more so as I get sort of like to the point in my career where I want the new generation of change managers to embrace the people side, because they are very much more technical savvy. So I want them, the people side, working more on that neuroscience part of it, aligned very much to AI. From Mirabilis, and I'm seeing very much a call for people that understand data, that can data cleanse, can help teams to understand how data can be used, as I've said earlier, for actionable insight, to drive businesses forward. And so for Mirabilis, I think there's a great opportunity for that data and data scientists to come on board to be working as part of the associate team with the technology teams that I am associated with.
Yeah.
So when a technology team has a program, I don't always get involved in the program. Sometimes I'm a conduit.
Yes.
So I will introduce people. So those Mirabilis teams. So I've got teams, for projects, programs, communications, on all those training and the basics of change as it was, as change is moving more and more into data and AI. Those specialists for Mirabilis will be built up as bringing in part of the team, and fresh blood, new people.
Yes.
I have had 2 interns in the last couple of years, and they've now got fantastic jobs working in digital marketing.
Well done.
Digital technical marketing. So I don't have them anymore. So that sort of thing too. Where do I see Mirabilis? Is really a place where people can come and get ideas and grow, and I personally can knowledge transfer and encourage change to be something that people everywhere understands the benefit of.
That is fantastic too. That has been a fascinating hour. Final thing before we go on to what are you doing for the weekend, how would anybody want to get hold of you? How can they get hold of you? What's your website? What's your email address?
So my website is www.mirabilis.world, and my email address is nataliewg@mirabilis.world. And I have so I've got the website. Yeah. I'm also very, very active on LinkedIn. So
Fantastic.
On LinkedIn, I'm Natalie Warren-Green, and yes, I can be found on LinkedIn daily. So that's a really good way to contact me. I use that platform constantly.
Well, I hope our listeners has as much fun listening to you. It's been fascinating. I'm loving the enthusiasm. As I say, I've known you for a while and always found you to be so engaging, so bubbly, and so passionate about your role. So thank you very much for that last hour of your career run through. It's been fantastic.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Andrew. I really enjoy speaking to you too, as you know. And you know what? Sometimes we have to get on with our day job, which is now.
Absolutely. So the last question that we always ask is, what are you doing for the weekend, Tilly, to relax?
Weekend coming.
Yeah.
I am actually meeting a friend who has moved to Ireland, who needs to decant a lot of stuff from somewhere in their home in the UK, in England, and we are going to be using lots of platforms to sell stuff.
Wow.
So I will be carrying on using technology, but it will be for the benefit of decluttering and house move for someone else. But she knows how I know how to do this stuff. So we're out there. We're marketing stuff.
Oh, well, that sounds like a fantastic weekend. I'm just going to relax.
In this weather, it's fine. I don't need to be outside too much.
No, definitely. But no, that's a real good use of the other side of technology. I think I'm just going to chill out. It plans to be a cold weekend in the northeast of Darlington. So wrap up warm. I'm going to get stuck in front of the fire and binge a couple of TVs and try and switch off technology. It's been a heck of a busy first week back. Tilly, thank you so much for your time. It's been really appreciated. You have yourself a good time. And as for everybody else, you have your good weekend. Thank you so much. Goodbye.